The mystery surrounding former President Donald Trump's expected but surprise indictment is supposed to be unveiled next week. Good evening. I'm Tanya Rivera.
And I'm Ben Briscoe. A Manhattan grand jury's indictment is expected to be unsealed on Tuesday. Bradley Blackburn has the latest from outside that Manhattan courthouse where the unprecedented decision was made.
CBS News has learned former President Donald Trump will travel to New York on Monday to surrender himself before his court appearance the following day. Secret Service agents will escort Trump to his arraignment, where the grand jury's historic indictment will be formally unsealed, and the former president will be asked to enter a plea. The case centers around payments made to adult film actress Stormy Daniels before the 2016 presidential election.
We don't know what's in the indictment, so we could be looking at campaign finance charges. We could be looking at wire fraud, at banking fraud.
The NYPD, FBI Joint Counterterrorism Task Force, and U.S. Secret Service are among the agencies coordinating security ahead of Trump's court appearance here next week.
He's not worried at all. I mean, he's upset, angry. He is being persecuted politically. That is clear to many people, not only on the right, but on the left.
Trump is expected to be fingerprinted and photographed for a mugshot, but not placed in handcuffs. Many Republicans, including former Vice President Mike Pence, are coming to Trump's defense.
The unprecedented indictment of a former president of the United States for a campaign finance issue is an outrage.
Friday, supporters gathered near Trump's Florida estate.
This is going to put him in the office right now. So let him arrest him. He's going to win.
After the arraignment, Trump is expected to return to Florida aboard his private jet.
You're hearing a grand jury indicted him, but that does not mean that a jury found Trump guilty. Instead, here's what an indictment means. The grand jury issues an indictment when they believe there's enough evidence that a charge of a crime needs to go to trial. In this case, the crime is related to business fraud and campaign finance issues. Now, to get to the point of an indictment, a prosecutor has to present evidence to an impartial group of people called a grand jury. Grand juries usually made up of 16 to 23 people, and 12 of those jurors at least have to agree that there's enough evidence to charge a person with the crime. That's how they issue an indictment. A grand jury is constitutionally required for certain types of crimes. That way, there's an unbiased decision being made about what evidence will be used before someone is charged. So now that he's officially charged, many people are wondering, what does this mean for the campaign and his eligibility? Casey Decker verifies.
Let's verify. Can you be elected president if you've been charged with or convicted of a crime? Our sources are the Constitution and the U.S. Supreme Court. Article 2 of the Constitution lays out 3 eligibility requirements for becoming president. You have to be a natural-born American citizen, be at least 35 years old, and have been a U.S. resident for at least 14 years. That's it. No other requirements. And the Supreme Court has further ruled that neither Congress nor state legislatures can add new requirements on top of what the Constitution already says. The only way to change the requirements would be a constitutional amendment. So we can verify, yes, you can be elected president if you've been charged with or convicted of a crime. Even someone who's found guilty and sent to prison could still, legally speaking, if elected, run the country from a cell. With your Verify, I'm Casey Decker.
All right, so what does the near future look like for Donald Trump? Well, the frontrunner to be Republican nominee in 2024 is set to face a mugshot, a fingerprinting, and a court appearance next week. Then legal experts say he would likely be released on bail pretty quickly. After that, though, it's not clear how the case would play out.
I think this is the definition of unprecedented.
Hofstra law professor James Sample says Trump will do what he can, of course, to avoid going to trial if he is arrested. There's even a chance that the case could still be ongoing after the 2024 presidential election is over.
No matter when the indictment comes, it will be a matter of months before this case goes to trial. Donald Trump is famous for trying to drag out legal proceedings.
So we know Donald Trump can still run for office and even be elected, even if he's convicted. If those things happen, folks online are asking, can he pardon himself? Let's get you the facts. Our sources for this Verify are constitutional law professors, Kenneth Townsend from Wake Forest Law School and Jeff Powell from Duke Law. You're not going to like their answer.
It's not clear.
So the question, can't be answered with
complete certainty.
No president's tried it before, so there's no legal precedent. The only legal guidance comes from this 1974 legal opinion from the Department of Justice. It says it's not possible, citing our judicial system's fundamental rule that no one may be a judge in his own case. But
important to remember that was on the heels of the Watergate drama, and so that office might have been a bit chastened at the time.
The president gets pardon powers from Article 2, Section 2, which says it only forbids them from using it in cases of impeachment.
You could imagine a scenario where the articles of impeachment even are written very explicitly to say that if convicted, the president would be prevented from having the power to pardon himself or perhaps others.
Also, pardons only apply to federal crimes. The president could still face charges at the state level. If the president did pardon himself, both professors think the case would end up in the Supreme Court, with one clear argument against the president.
Turns the pardon power in this instance into a warping of the separation of powers, because it enables the president to ensure that the president is free of the repercussions of possibly criminal conduct.
So we can verify it's still up in the air if the president can pardon themselves, but it would face multiple legal challenges. The bottom line right now is that Donald Trump has been indicted, not convicted. We're going to wait and see what happens in court.